Revival fires coming down, coming down, coming down. Revival fires coming in this place. Let's sing, oh, say, oh, 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 oh. That the spirit that you have received does not make you return back to slavery, but the spirit that you received has brought you into sonship, where that you are able to cry, Abba, Father. And then Amos wrote that in the last days that the Lord would pour out his spirit on all flesh, and my sons and daughters, hallelujah, that they're going to prophesy of the goodness of the Lord. So we declare it this morning that sons and daughters are going to prophesy. Sing in 3 parts. Sons and daughters prophesy, prophesy, prophesy. Sons and daughters prophesy in this place. Sons and daughters prophesy. They prophesy in the name of Jesus. Sons and daughters in this place. Come on, let's take it out. Say, oh, oh. Say this. I hear the sound of an army arising. I hear the sound of an army arising. I hear the sound of an army arising. Yes. I hear the sound, say, of an army arising. I hear the sound of chains being broken. I hear the sound of an army arising in this place. Now say this for me. Say, rise up, 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 take your authority and rise up, 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 rise up. Break the music for me. Break the music. Wherever you are, whether you're here, whether you're at home, now not in your car, you can't do this in your car, but if you're at home, I dare you to just begin to walk around your home, even while this live is playing, and just begin to march and pull the strongholds down, strongholds of fear, strongholds of sickness, strongholds of oppression, strongholds of perversion, strongholds of anger. Hallelujah. The Bible says that the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but they're mighty through God to the pulling down of stronghold and casting down imaginations. That means what's in your mind and every thought that acknowledges itself above the knowledge of God. Just let's begin to just march. March in place, march from room to room, in your kitchen, in your bedroom, in your bathroom, and say this, say rise up, 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 say release, 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 try that, release, hey, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up, rise up. say, the name of Jesus lifted high.
Grace and peace. Welcome back, family. Last week, Bishop Tillman and Bishop Frazier began to talk to us about the fear, stress, and uncertainty of the pandemic and issues that we're facing in the world that cause people to live in a state of not knowing if God is really with us. But as Bishop Tillman said, it's important for believers to have the absolute confidence that our God does not leave us. In fact, he's ever with us. Bishop Frazier addressed the transition from Romans chapter 7, which concluded with Paul's question, "O wretched man that I am, who shall deliver me from the body of this death?" But in chapter 8, we have good news, family. There is therefore now no condemnation to those who are in Christ. So all the anxiety that Paul discussed is now satisfied and wiped away by the suffering, resurrection, and the victory of Jesus Christ, which has liberated us from our perpetual, ongoing anxiety about all the stuff that we've done wrong. What a wonderful message of hope, peace, and security. This week, the bishops pick up on this empowering lesson, still unpacking the immeasurable riches of Romans chapter 8 as they answer this plaguing question: is God with us? Now take good notes so that in those questionable moments in your life, you can reflect on this information and set yourself straight. Yes, God is still with me. Let's listen in.
Okay, so from the standpoint of he condemned sin in the flesh. And now, those of us who, according to the flesh, set their minds, well, no, I think it's verse 5, set their minds on the things of the flesh, but those who are according to the Spirit, the things of the Spirit.
Yes, so I'm sorry.
So now there is, okay, so within me, the new person I've become, right? Now is a person who seeks and produces after the spiritual person that I have become.
Yes, and I think to enunciate that, we need to know what really happened in the transformation of new birth. Because in the transformation of new birth, I got a new nature. So that my spirit man now leans towards the things of God.
Yeah, I'm bent
where
that
my
way.
natural man leans towards the things of the flesh.
Yes, right. So when Jesus is talking to Nicodemus and he tells Nicodemus about being born again, and Nicodemus said, "Must I enter into my mother's womb a second time?" No, he lets him know that which is born of the Spirit is spirit. That which is born of the flesh is flesh. That which is born of the Spirit is spirit. And it goes on to say in verse 8, the wind bloweth where it listeth, you hear the sound thereof, but you cannot tell from whence it cometh or whither it goeth. So it's every person that is born of the Spirit. It is Paul that gives us the detail of that.
Without question.
Right? Jesus says we are delivered, we are born again, but then Paul gets into the detail to give us a real inside look at what really happened at that moment that the Spirit of God became an intricate part of our life by causing us to become a new person.
There's no question about it. In fact, that's the primary role and mission of the apostles, of which Paul is significant. If you look at his Romans from chapter 1 to 9, his Ephesians from chapter 1 to 3, his Colossians chapters 1, 2, and 3, or 1 and 2, all of them are teaching moments where Paul says, okay, you're saved.
Yes.
We know that it's good, you're saved.
Right.
But now I want to tell you the riches of that salvation. See, that's Paul's prayer in Ephesians and in Colossians, that the eyes of your understanding being enlightened,
Yes.
you might know what is the hope of his calling.
Yes.
And then in Colossians, you know, since the day I heard it, I don't cease to pray for you and to desire that you might be filled with the knowledge of his will and all wisdom and spiritual understanding. And why? That you might walk worthy of the Lord unto all pleasing.
Yes.
My salvation came when I surrendered to Jesus Christ. Paul now says, you need to get a grip on just how wonderful what you receive by faith actually is.
Okay.
There are diamonds and emeralds and pearls of greatness that are all packed in salvation.
Okay. So because of this, then, we have been adopted into the kingdom and
more accurately adopted into the sonship.
in sonship. And we've been given this, we have this now intimacy with God through Jesus Christ.
No question.
Right?
Yes.
And we have this inheritance now. We are deemed and called sons now.
Yes.
And heirs in the kingdom. So from that perspective about where we are in terms of adopted into his son, Jesus Christ, it said, for you have not received the spirit of slavery leading to fear again, but you have received a spirit of adoption as sons by which we cry out, Abba, Father.
Yes, it's wonderful.
Right, which is an indication of this relationship,
of the riches of this relationship.
Okay, and okay, when you using that word riches, identify that in simple terms. What does that mean to us?
So when we are given the description of our place in our relationship, there are a number of things that are key to that.
Yeah.
One of which is I'm an heir of God.
Yes.
And you know, we can only take that so far because God is never going to die. But the idea is I get wonderful stuff from God.
Right.
But it's amplified when Paul says, and we are joint heirs with Jesus Christ. Now, still, you know, you have to allow for the fact that I'm human and stuff. But what does that really mean? It means I don't have 50-50 with Christ. I got 50% access to God, and Christ has 50%. It's 100-100. I am a joint heir with Jesus Christ. And being a joint heir with Jesus Christ means I have full access to God, at least within the confines of my capacity as a human being. Mm-hmm. So when the Apostle John is talking, he says, behold, what manner of love the Father has bestowed upon us,
right,
that we should be called, and the actual Greek word is children of God.
Right, techno.
I mean, stop and consider that is what he's saying.
Right.
Don't just run by that.
Right.
We have been called children of God.
Yes.
And he says, and it does not yet appear what we shall be, but we know that when he shall appear, we shall be like him. So what is it saying is, all the riches that I now enjoy don't even scratch the surface. Because ultimately, when he comes, Christ comes and catches us away, he's going to make up that difference.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, this is worth the price of rice in China.
Yes. 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 Which also then is indicator to us that God, through Jesus, has provided for us a clear picture of his love for us. A clear picture of his love for us.
Clear
right?
picture.
Then Paul says in verse 16, the Spirit himself testifies with our spirit that we are the children of God.
Yes.
And children heirs also, heirs with God, fellow heirs with Christ, for if we suffer, so that we may also be glorified with him.
Now that aspect demands a little bit of discussion, because it is the concept of suffering with him that brings together an intimacy that nothing else would do. That Jesus anticipates a future glorification.
Yes.
But in the meantime, my commitment to him is so solid that no matter what happens in the meantime, my confidence is based in the fact that ultimately I'm going to be glorified together with him.
And to us, that is what he promised when Jesus said, I have come that you might have life and that you might have it more abundantly.
Yes, because Christ is looking at the total program.
Yes. Yes. So since God has identified his love for us through Jesus Christ, and God is not one who makes a promise and then retreats from the promise. He's not one that commits himself and then all of a sudden doesn't commit himself anymore. He commits himself to us through Jesus Christ, which should cause us to be even more attracted to him and more in love with him because of what he did for us through Jesus Christ.
Yes.
What does that mean now? Let's say in the first part of what we've discussed here, it's clear that God is for us. I would say that. And it's clear that God is with us. The question is now, since God is with us, help me understand the permanency of that love affair that he has with us. And when I say that, I don't want us to think about, I do want us to think about our life as human beings. And sometimes there are questions that enter our mind, almost like the psalmist said, where is God?
So I think we can find some answers in the last part of chapter 8.
Mm-hmm.
Because in the last part of chapter 8, Paul clearly identifies our own infirmities.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know how to pray like we ought to know.
Yeah.
The Spirit itself maketh intercession for us with sighs too deep for words.
Right.
You know,
Right.
That there is something going on in the spirit realm by the Holy Spirit working in us that intercedes for us, and that intercession exceeds our own capacity to even ask God for what we need. I need stuff, but there's some stuff I don't even know I need, but the Spirit makes intercession for us. But then he moves from that to this wonderful thing And he says, look at who you are in God. You're not a reaction of God at the last moment, because God foreknew you. I'm in verse 29.
Yes.
He foreknew you.
Right.
And not only did he foreknow you, he predestined you.
Yes.
It's the Greek word proorizo,
Yes.
and it means to be forencircled. Now, young people are not going to know anything about this, but when I was young, back in the day, when we would go looking for a job, we'd go to the classifieds in the newspaper, and there'd be a long list of jobs available, and we would peruse all those jobs. And then when we saw one that we thought we either qualified for or were interested in, we'd take a pen or read something and we'd circle it so that easily we knew this was the focus of my attention. That's what God's saying here. I foreknew you and I predestined you. And I predestined you to become conformed to the image of his dear son.
Right.
Listen, what does it say? That he might be the firstborn, the son of many brethren.
Right.
And then he says, whom I predestinated, I also called.
Right.
And whom I called, I also justified.
Mm-hmm.
And whom I justified, I'm going to glorify. So here's a whole chain of things God is promising he's going to do for us. And it speaks to the fact that what God said he's going to do is not temporary by any stretch of the imagination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I saw you before you saw yourself.
Right.
And I made a decision to be good to you.
Yes.
It had nothing to do with you because you didn't even exist at the time.
Right.
After that, I encircled you. After that, I called you.
Yeah.
After that, I justified. That's where we are now. We are justified by faith.
Right. Right.
That's Romans 5.
5. Yes.
We are justified by faith.
By
And wait
faith.
a minute. Paul says, not only are we justified by faith, we have peace with God.
Yeah. Through.
Yeah, of course, Jesus is the agent for all of this.
Exactly. Exactly.
I can't do
Right.
anything without Jesus.
But isn't that important? No, because we can't forget him. If we exclude him from this, we have nothing.
Nothing. We're not saved.